Good, goody.
Hi.
Hello.
You go.
Figure that.
You go.
Hiya.
Hi.
Nope.
Now then, can you hear me all right with my camera angled off like that?
Yep.
Yeah, good out. What are you doing? You're on your bed. You're on your bed. You're gonna go to bed. There we go. One again.
Oh, should we go have a wee first?
Anybody want a ginger dog?
No. You, Georgie. Have a wee wee.
Got a spare ginger dog. No.
I've got a few already. Don't need another one.
Yeah.
Private
Hey,
chatty.
George. Yeah. Good girl.
Shall we start with reports then, or what I like to call the moan session? Tell us how awful it is living with puppies. Who wants to go first?
Don't mind.
Hang on then, let's mute.
Yeah, no, she's we did a bit of a brat stage last week. This week she's gone back to being best puppy in the whole wide world. Apart from we had a bit of an incident with a thistle bush that she came off rather worse than wherefore. So that was quite a long day of getting thistles out of quite a shaggy coat. But she seems to have learnt a lesson on that one for today anyway. So yeah, and certainly a lot of stuff sort of starting to pay off. I mean, they always, all of them, and she learns, I think, from the older ones, that they always come in and sit and wait for their paws to be wiped and what have you, which she's really good at. And then today, because we're so muddy, they've had to be hosed off outside, and they don't have collars on outside. So I really wasn't sure how she'd react, and she just lay up with all the rest of them and just held her paws up to be hosed off. Considering how cold the hose was, I thought she did brilliantly. So yeah, she's been a really good girl, hasn't she?
I love it. I love hearing when you're having good times, as long as it doesn't, as long as you recognise that it's not permanent with puppies. And that,
yeah.
Okay, grand. I'll just mute you for a second. Let's have a word with Claire.
Oh. Yeah, she's had a good week again. It's just misbehaving really, just when there's things on the side, which I know is our fault. We need to put them away. But yeah, she's doing good. She's just so greedy. She's just the greediest dog I've ever known. She just nearly stole a cake off my son, which would have been the worst thing in the world. But luckily Daddy was quick, so.
So I have to say, having dealt with quite a lot of behaviour cases where teaching them is quite tricky because you haven't really got a useful motivator, unless the dog's really good at playing with the owner and unless the dog's got a really good relationship with the owner. Then if you've also got a dog who's picky with the food and is reluctant to eat, then that becomes a real big problem. So I know it feels like having a greedy dog is a bad thing, but actually I want you to count your blessings on that, because it does mean that you've got a useful way of teaching them. You've got a useful motivator on hand at all times. So usefully though, I'm going to have another word about self-control again today, and how to teach your dog to sort of temper that enthusiasm to go after those things that they want. So we've done kind of the start of leave it training, which in that instant can kind of give you a few split seconds sometimes to be able to get things before the dog does. But what if we can set up situations so that when we know that it's going to be difficult for the dog, when we're going to be doing things or leaving things around because it's too much to be tidying it up in between whatever we're doing, then we kind of need ways of saying to the dog, do this instead. I know there's a pile of food there, but go do this instead. So what I really like as a default behavior, a behavior that you can ask them to do instead of bothering you while you're cooking or bothering you while you're, you know, doing whatever with something that they might want to steal. Then teaching them to go to their bed and lay down and stay there, so that you at least know that if they get off the bed, then they're back into the danger zone. So it has a double function. If the dog's body is already still, then they can't also go and pick stuff up or go and steal stuff. You can't do both at the same time. Only one body available. But it has that double function of, if the dog moves, that kind of switches your awareness onto the fact that now they've moved, therefore they're going to be able to get into trouble. Does that make sense? So a downstay, which is now finally being demonstrated beautifully by my lot just there, who would much rather be over here hassling me and nagging at me for food. What we need to think about when we're training this is we don't want to get back into the old habits of trying to force our dogs to do as we say. And I think that doing a downstay is one of those behaviours that's very easy to tell whether the dog is doing it or whether they're not doing it. And that kind of leads us into that potential of thinking they're not doing it on purpose. They're not doing it to irritate us. They're not doing it to frustrate us. Yeah, so we've got that potential for us to turn into the nagging human again, especially I find for myself, having been through the original style of training where when we were teaching them to go and stay down, if they got up, we'd just immediately go over and push them down. You know, we would get angry with them and go and push them back down into the position. So, you know, that's something that I was taught originally. Get in your bed. This is space there. Lie down. Okay, good, yeah. That's something I was taught originally, and when I first started to transition, so I'm what they call a crossover trainer. I was originally trained using methods that didn't allow the dog choice and freedom, and you didn't use as many. We did use rewards, but you didn't use as many rewards. Then as a crossover trainer, I'm very mindful of not falling into those human traps where we start to feel that we've got to make them do such and such. Yeah. So we're going to talk about a little bit of self-control first. You'll have to, because I do so many classes, I kind of lose track of which games I've taught, and there's so many different games to get to the same result. So if you find that this is a game that you've already been shown or you don't really want to do it again, just give me a shake and we'll go on to another one. Yeah, so interrupt me. Yeah. So did we play the Zoom treat game? The zooming treat game. I'm going to get some treats. We need a dog. Which dog shall we have? Shall we have a dodo? Good. All right. So the game is, the treat starts all the way up here and the dog's looking at the treat. They know where it's coming from. We are going to slowly bring it towards the dog and then zoom it straight into their mouth. Yeah, and I want them to be coming so quick towards them that they kind of move back from it a little bit as it comes into them. So you don't come in and then slow down. So we start here, long distance, you do a really, really slow, but a short, slow, and then a really fast, long zoom. So we start, to begin with, the slow movement of the treat's this long, and the fast movement of the treat is this long. Can't get my hands on the camera. Yeah? And then, over the course of time, the slow bit gets longer. Yeah? Until, eventually, you can get all the way to the dog's nose before you zoom. All right, or even all the way to the dog's nose. And this is them holding themselves back. Yeah, the aim of the game for you is zoom before they jump up and move towards the food. We don't want them practicing jumping towards the food and then the food arrives. If we're doing the long bit, the slow bit, and the puppy keeps jumping up, well, we need to slow it down even more and take it further away, and then only do a tiny bit of the slow and a really, really quick zoom from a long distance away. Yeah, we want the dog thinking, oh, it's going to come, I'm going to have to jump back a bit from it, I'm going to have to hold myself back because it's going to hit me in the nose. Does that make sense? Yeah, you have a go at that one for me? Good boy. Can you find your bed? Find your bed. You want to lay down if you want to watch telly, no? On your bed. Dodo, get on your bed. Or get kicked out. Get on your bed. And lay down. Down. So for Georgie just then, that feeling of, oh, it's going to hit me in the face was so punishing that what we saw is him say, I'm not playing this game. Yeah. So for him now, I wouldn't do too much of that, because you might find that as that hand comes down like that, he's already going to be thinking, oh, yeah. So I saw him go, oh, no, I'm not playing that game. That's freaky. Oh. Beautiful. All right, so we'll have another game. Have you been practicing your little bits of leave it training where you cover your food up on the floor? Yes, do you know what I mean? So what I'm asking is, would both of these puppies be capable of giving you a few seconds without diving on a piece of food that was on the floor? 2-3 seconds. It doesn't have to be a long time, because we're going to play a little game. That's, again, it's about self-control, but it's about you taking control of the reinforcer. So I'm going to put you down here, hopefully without dropping you. Just get myself a dog. Shall we have, no, because you played last time. You go down. Go down. Go lay down. Maybe. Down. Dodo. Lay down. Me. Good girl. So, a little game called Mousy Mousy, originally by Jane Arden. Okay, and the game goes like this, bit tricky with 3 dogs. Food goes on the floor. To begin with, it's still, and you might cover your food. If the puppy moves towards it, you're going to cover it. When they look at you, you're going to ping it so they can get it. Good girl. As soon as they look at you, ping it. So slide it so they can get it. All right, so it's called Mousy Mousy because obviously it moves like a mouse when they're allowed to have it. When it's still to begin with, they're not allowed to get it. They've got to wait. Come out of the way, please. So if they're nagging at your hand, just keep it covered. And go back to the lessons that we were doing before, where the only way to get that item is to step back away from it, to be polite and just hold yourself back from it. And what I would do, Nikki, is as soon as she's made that decision to hold herself back, then flick it so she can have it. As soon as you see that tiny little split second of, oh, I give up. Yeah, but we're looking for, oh, I give up first. And this is a really big reward because for the dog, it's not just about getting that food, it's also about the chase. So it's getting part of their natural instinct to chase going. Yeah, which is a really, really big thing for dogs. Really significant reinforcement for dogs. what we have to try and do is make it clear the thing that gets it, the thing that earns it, is you first holding yourself away from it, then holding yourself still, and then looking at me, and then I'm going to tell you you can, well, I'm going to flick it to begin with. What we start to do then is add a release cue when we are going to flick it. So we're going to say, get it. Yeah, so we get, yay, you can go. Now, why is this useful? Well, for the future, if you have a puppy, for example, who's going to be interested in chasing birds or squirrels, what could happen is you could teach them, look at me first, and then I'll let you go. You can go chase that squirrel or that bunny or that whatever it is. And that sounds a bit cruel from my point of view, telling you that you can go hunting wildlife. But what it does from the wildlife's point of view is it gives them that few seconds to notice there's a dog in the environment and start to get out of that situation. It's also useful if you're going to be letting them play with other dogs, but you're not sure and you need them to be under control until you've asked the other owner, and then you can give them a release cue to tell them, yes, you can go. All right. So another little game, it's very similar but different. It's going to be this one. What we're going to do here is the food is in my hand, but to get the food released, yes, he has to look at my face. So let's just sort out some dogs. Can you go over there? And lay down, way down. So here's the food. Yes, there's my face. I'm going to mark him when he chooses my face, and it could be up here. And it's a patience game. Yes, nearly. He did give me the littlest glance. Go and lay down. Go and lay down. Thank you. Yes. So I'm looking for when he looks at me. It could just be eyes to begin with, and with him it is just eyes, because he's a bit worried because Maybe's there. Yes. That she might jump up and get it before him. Okay. Shall we have Twiggy? Twiggy. Twiggy. You go down there. No, come out. Go in there. Go and lay down. Twiggy. Come on. Good girl. You are noisy with that big tail. Yes. Yes. Good girl. All right. Good girl. So how did you get on with that one? What do you think of that game? Can your puppy look at you instead of staring at the food? Go out. Go out. Go and lay down. Go and lay down, or I will kick you out. Go and lay down. Good. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, so there are some little self-control games. There are a lot of control games available. So Jane Arden's book called Mission Control is really good. It's nice and easy to read, and it's got lots of different ideas for different ways of explaining things to your dogs. So that little hand game that we were doing last week, or the week before, I can't remember, which is where the dog approaches the hand closes if they approach. We're going to add a cue to that now. If your dog's good at doing it, now that they can make that good choice, we can say to them, wait. Yes. Okay. And you can start doing silly things like putting it on your knee, wait. Yes. You're going to get that one. Did you even see me put it there? Wait. Get it, get it. He's not convinced. He thinks it's her because she's sat so closely. He thinks she's the one that's meant to be getting it, doesn't she? Yeah? So the cue wait is when they've seen and they know that they're going to get something, but you're going to put a time delay before they receive that reinforcer. Okay? So wait would be before I open the door, you need to sit back to get the door to open. Wait would be before I put your dinner on the floor, you need to sit back and just hold your position, and then I'll give you a release cue to say that you can have that food. Okay. Okay, and we can add wait to the mousy game. Okay, so come out the way. You go that way, everybody. Wait there. Wait. Wait. So I don't know whether or not you can see, but there's 3 mice on the floor in front of the dogs, and they're doing a wait. And I like to use a hand signal cue for wait as well, because obviously right now I'm looking at the camera, I'm not looking at my dogs. How do they know? Well, because I can still continue that conversation, but keep a hand signal in there. So I introduce that in training sessions along with my wait cue, the verbal cue. And now we can go wait. And there's still 3 mice on the floor. Wait. And there's still 3 mice on the floor. Wait. Get it. And if you're playing with multiple dogs, I don't know whether or not you noticed there, because I've got 2 who are faster, obviously everybody's faster than Twiggy, she's got a big body to move from a down to start getting up, to start moving. Everybody else had eaten those bits before she was even on her feet. So I'm ready then to toss additional rewards in there. So we don't get jealousy. We don't always get, somebody's always getting it and somebody isn't getting it. Any questions about any of that lot, or thoughts on it? Thoughts about, oh, that's not going to work with my dog, that don't make sense, anything like that? Okay, so we're going to start teaching the skill, go to your bed. I call it on your bed. You can call it whatever you like. You can call it on your mat or on your place or on your spot. You choose, it doesn't matter to me. But I'll talk you through the technique of how to get it and how to explain it to your dogs. So for that, I'm just going to get rid. So you've only got to look at one dog. I'm going to get rid of a couple because I know that it's hard to watch a training demo when they're all being freaky. So we're going to have Twiggy can stay. Dodo out. Dodo, go out. Good boy, I know. Good gal. Can you get up? Move that way. Go that way a minute. Thank you. All right, so just turn that over so you can see it more obviously. So what I'm going to do with a puppy, I would start with a lure. So I've got the food in my hand. I'm going to put that lure on the nose, so I'm absolutely in touch with the dog's nose. I'm going to take that dog's nose all the way to the place that I want the dog to be, and I'm going to put the food onto the bed or the mat or the rug. That's it. I'm going to do that over and over. I'm going to take them all the way over there, and then I'm going to put it all the way down on there. So the bed is the place where the food is coming to. There's no point going anywhere else because that's where the food is going to. All right. So do that a few times with full contact on the nose, taking that nose all the way over there. And then what I want you to do is we're going to change the hand grip on the lure slightly. So we've got that lure position. This time what I want you to do is hold the lure but point. Okay, so we've got the lure in the same place, but I'm pointing my finger. I'm going to take that law and I'm going to point and then reward. So I've changed my hand signal to a point, then a point, and reward on the bed. You have to make sure their nose is really on your food if you're using a lure, that they definitely know they're allowed to lick it. Remember, they've got to be able to get their hands into your palm side of your hand, their nose into the palm side of your hand. So you've got to have your hand facing towards their nose for them to follow. She says, Georgie says, nah. It's all right, don't worry. Doesn't understand, that's all. Yeah? Okay, come off then. Once you've done that a few times, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to lag behind a tiny, tiny bit. Tiny bit. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your lure, you're going to swish it past in front of their nose and point and lag behind them a little bit so you catch up with them when they're on the way to the bed. You want them to kind of lead you there a little bit. Okay? And now, if they're starting to get reluctant to get out of the bed, which Georgie just said, now we're going to just add a little extra cue so they don't get mixed up. They don't get upset. All right? So, we're going to have a little come out of the bed cue. And what we do with that is we do our lure to the bed and reward there. Then we're going to say off and throw a treat away from the bed. Okay? And if your dog is starting to want to hang out at the bed because the bed is where all those rewards have been coming, then we need to give them that additional come off the bed cue so we can continue to practice getting on the bed. Well, in which case it's time for us to start to introduce the verbal cue for get on your bed. Okay, so we've got the hand signal cue, which is the point. Now we're going to add the verbal cue. So we're going to say, pass their nose with the food, point, say on your bed, and then join them. So you see, I'm trying to get a little bit slower so that I'm not getting there first. I'm letting the puppy get there first. And then you tell them off, and you reward away from the bed. And then you're going to tell them on your bed. Yeah. And what you should find quite quickly is they start to be keen to get there before you. And they start to wait for your off cue to say that they can get off the bed. Okay, so think about it. If you're cooking dinner, you don't want to be telling your dog 5 or 6 or 10 times in a row that they need to get on the bed. What you want to be able to do is send them there, have them spend some time there, and then tell them to get off the bed. So the next thing, we're going to take a little rest and just make sure we understood all of that. And then we're going to talk about how to get them to stay there for longer periods. Being beautifully demonstrated by Twiggy at the moment. She's the other two. I did tell you about the fact that Dodo and Maybe have both got very different personalities from Twiggy. They tend to be far more excited and aroused about life, and they tend to get frustrated much easier. Whereas she's kind of, oh yeah, whatever. You know, she'd have made a brilliant hippie. You could stick flowers in her ears and it would suit her perfectly. So I'm cheating a bit using her for this because, you know, that's where she'd rather be. So what did you think about that bit? Any questions, any concerns? Makes sense? Think you'll use it is the most important thing. Yeah. All right, so you've got a puppy. They kind of think the bed might be a goodish place now because there's been quite a lot of reinforcement coming to that bed. So they're starting to think it might be a nice place to stay. But why would they choose to stay there while you're doing really what might be quite valuable things to them? You're cooking food, you're going and talking to strangers at the front door, you're unwrapping gift parcels on Christmas Day, and they want to be in the middle of it. You know, why would they choose to stay on the bed? Well, what we need to do here is develop a habit, the habit of staying on the bed. And for all puppies, the way that starts is with really high rate of reinforcement for doing the right thing. We don't want to be having them practice at all getting off the bed before we've released them, or getting up if you're doing a downstay on the bed before we've told them it's okay to come off. So when I mean high rate of reward, I'm not even kidding. This has to be very, very fast to begin with, all right? So what I want you to do is I want you to get yourself a real chunky handful of treats, all right? I want your hand as full as you can cope without dropping them, all right? And you can still grip so you can keep them safe. So I'm lucky, I've got quite decent sized hands, and you know, for this dog I need decent sized treats. Okay, so when we're teaching a downstay, what we really need to be mindful of is what we call the 3 Ds. And the 3 Ds, it's written up on your puppy group, is distance, duration, and distraction. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be working on is duration. How long the dog needs to wait between reinforcements. Okay, if they can't wait for 1 second between treats, they're not going to be able to stay in that position and stay down waiting for 20 minutes while you cook dinner. They're not going to be able to do it. So the first duration that we're going to go with, no distance away from your puppy, so you get as close to them as you can. We're going to go for 1/30th of a second duration. So we're going to go treat, treat, okay? Now the way I do that is a little technique to see if you can see, if I can get it on camera. I need my treat hand to go to the dog and put a piece of food down. I need my reserve hand to be kept safe. So I'm going to drop her from one into the other. So my reserve hand stays here, safe on my chest. My reward hand and then can go and give the treat. Then I can reload quite quickly and I can give another treat. Okay, so have a look at that. You can use a treat pouch if you've got a treat pouch that's a decent size. You can get your hand into it and out of it quickly. So I'm going to go treat, 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 treat. And I'm going to be rewarding that rapidly to begin with, that the dog doesn't even think about getting up. Okay, and then I'm going to just get a little bit slower, almost imperceptibly. And then just a little bit slower. And what starts to happen is that the dog starts to wait there for the next treat. And I start counting how many seconds between each treat. So I start in my head, 1 good dog, 2 good dog, 3 good dog, treat. 1 good dog, 2 good dog, 3 good dog, 4 good dog, treat. 1 good dog, 2 good dog, treat. Now, what happened there? I rewarded for less time. Imagine from the dog's point of view, if it just got harder and harder and harder and longer and longer and longer, they're going to get frustrated with that. And they're more likely to want to get up and run away and go do something else instead. But if you keep them guessing by sometimes dropping in one for less time, well, maybe it's worth gambling that the next one will be less time. The aim is to slowly grow the time, but I want you to grow that time in circles. So sometimes you're circling back to a shorter period of time. Does that make sense? Just making sure I'm explaining it properly, because I don't want you fuddling with your hair when you're done. Okay, so once you've got 5 proper seconds, so 1 good dog, 2 good dog, 3 good dog, 4 good dog, 5 good dog, then we can start to increase distance. And when we're increasing distance, we don't increase it away from the dog. Okay, from your dog's point of view, if I stand up, where are the treats in relation to them? If I just stand up next to them, not gone anywhere, look how much distance I've added to where the treats are. So when you first start adding distance, I want you to add it with your body coming into slowly straighter and straighter. Don't increase the average time while you're increasing your distance. So keep it around about your 5 seconds. When you can stand all the way up straight, and you've got a good 5 seconds, sometimes it's a 6, 7 or 8 seconds, but it's definitely a good average 5 seconds, then you can start adding more time. You can start building up until of body movement, not a lot, okay? And then reward. So I might walk a little bit and then reward. I'm not going anywhere. I might just stand on one leg and reward. I might wiggle my bum and reward. I might wave my arms around a bit and reward. When you're able to walk around your puppy within that 10 seconds, right next to them, then you can start adding more time. So now I'm going to do 15 seconds between rewards while I'm doing silly things right next to the dog. Okay, this is your chance to show your dance moves on video when your dog's definitely on the bed and they're holding themselves still. Remember, get those rewards in. If your puppy keeps getting up, it just means that for that particular puppy right now, it's too hard. So we go back to whatever stage they were doing really well at, and then slowly build them back up. Yeah, each time they break, each time they start getting up and shifting about, what they're telling us is that's too difficult. We're going too fast. Okay? Once you've got 15 seconds, dance moves right next to them, you can add a step away. But now we've got a step away, you're going to reduce the time and you're going to reduce the distractions. Okay, so we're going to say, yes, I'm this much further away, but the treats are going to come a little bit more rapidly for a little while. And then when you're feeling okay about that, then I'm going to add a little bit of distraction at this distance. And the aim is to eventually get to the point at which you can ask your puppy to go to their bed, you can ask them to do a downstay, and you can be off, you know, cooking your dinner, slicing your whatevers on your work surface, messing about with things that they might be interested in, like hand models, I don't know why. It's a bit rude, this hand model. Can't see it, can you? Yeah, you can now. There we go. But doing things and just turning around to reinforce them every now and then. And for food reinforcement, as they get older, you don't have to be stuck with food reinforcement. I do like to personally, because I like my dogs to feel like they're earning and they're being loved. But you know, if you've got a dog that finds social reinforcement is a good reward, it's a good motivator for them, there's no reason not to just turn around while you're cutting your veggies up and tell your dog how amazing they are, and maybe cut them a piece of carrot off and throw that to them as a treat. Share your food that you're doing, that you're slicing with them in return for keeping still. So I've had a couple of people say to me, oh, my dog really bothers me. When we're sitting eating dinner, the dog is really bothering me. And I've said to them, well, why don't you just teach your dog to, that is a sign, a cue, an environmental cue. When the owner's food comes out, what you need to do is take yourself onto that mat, onto that bed. And that's where the reinforcement will be coming to. That's where you will get paid. And with one lady in particular said to me, oh, so how do I do that though? Because I'm eating my dinner on the table, and somebody told me I'm not allowed to feed the dog from the table. Which stumped me for a second, because I just don't understand that at all. She'd obviously been reading books that told her all of this stuff, rubbish about dominance and whatever. What I do, while I'm training my puppies to put up with me ignoring them while I've got the most amazing smelling food in the world, I want that dog to know that you are going to be part of this, but you need to do this while and you're going to get paid for doing this. So I have one of them next to my dinner plate, or on my dinner tray, or next to me on the sofa, so that I can, busy eating my dinner, pick up a piece of food, reward them for sitting next to me. To begin with, your meals are therefore going to be a bit disjointed. But if you've got a partner or someone that can share the job, then you can have them take it in turns, if you like. So you can have, you're going to be the one that feeds the dog while I'm eating, and then when I'm finished eating, I'll feed the dog and you can continue eating. Does that make sense? But I manage it as a single person. I managed to teach mine to, you know, go away from me, lay down and respect my food, and they're perfectly happy for it. Okay, so do we give a cue? In other words, a stay cue is an interesting question. I do verbally give a stay cue, but I think there's more cues actually in the environment if you teach it the way that we're teaching it. The fact that the bed is there, the fact that you're pointing towards it, the fact that you told them to go to their bed, and the fact that you've taught them there's a release cue when you're happy for them to get off the bed. Okay, so do you also need an additional cue to tell them to stay there? I'm not sure that you do really. I'm not averse to you teaching it to them, as long as one of the things that goes wrong with teaching the cue stay is that quite often people will then call the dog to them out of the stay. Yeah, and in which case it's not stay, because stay should mean stay there until I tell you it's okay to get off that bed, or I tell you it's okay to go. Does that make sense? So we don't use it quite so often nowadays, I don't think, because we used to tell them stay outside the shop, and we used to leave them and walk into the shop and, you know, go get your shopping and come back and your dog would still be there. We would never risk that nowadays. But I do use it for things like I'm going out and you're not coming with me. Does that make sense? So stay there. So more along those lines. Okay. Any questions about any of that lot? We're all relatively happy. So it is our last official session together, and it is coming up Christmas. I hope you're all ready for that. I noticed there seems to be some kind of a large statuette thing in the middle of Claire's living room. What on earth is that?
It's the Queen. Queen Elizabeth. Oh, I can't get it any closer.
All right, nice. Watching The Crown. Did you watch The Crown?
Yes.
I watched it all in one go.
We haven't finished it yet, but yeah, we're enjoying it.
Very good. I like it. I am a royalist, I'm afraid. So
Yeah, me too. Well, I got that for Harry's wedding. So the Queen joined us for Harry's wedding. And then I found it while I was clearing out the other day. So I put some tinsel around her neck.
And I'm surprised it's alive. You've got a puppy in the house. And
I
that
know.
thing is,
She's pretty good. She's left the tree alone. She's not bothered with the tree. There's presents under it. She's not bothering at all. She's doing great.
we just add the word yet.
Yet, yeah. She's more interested in chewing up my children, which is fine. They heal.
All right. I'm not really doing Christmas because people I normally do Christmas with are in Yorkshire.
Oh.
And not an option, is it, this year? And so, yeah, last year I wasn't going to do Christmas, and then I did decorate on Christmas Eve. But this year, I'm definitely not doing it because I'm working. I'm doing a 12-ish hour shift on Christmas Day, which will probably not be 12 hours. It'll probably be a lot longer than that. So, yeah, no point in getting decorations out, but I am going to meet up with some friends, I think, for a walk outside on the next day, on Boxing Day. So I hope you have a brilliant Christmas and that you enjoy it with your pups. I'm going to give a bit of a cautionary tale. I'm going to put you on mute again. Do be aware how many potential dangers there are with Christmas. If you're doing things like Christmas dinner and decorations, the most common foreign body is tinsel, which can be extremely dangerous if they manage to get tinsel and swallow it. And the most common cause for dogs to be poorly is obviously the fruit in the things like the puddings and in the cakes, those especially, and alcohol. Absolute. Dogs can't break down alcohol, so they will die of alcohol poisoning very, very easily. So with us, obviously, I assume you're going to have a drink because that is the sensible thing to do on a Christmas. Make sure that your glasses are out of the way. She's chasing after her baby again. What about you, Nikki? Do you do Christmas? Oh, sorry, you'll have to unmute you.
Yeah, normally we do because we've got 5 grown-up children and it's my grandson's first Christmas, so normally we'd have a huge Christmas. So obviously this year it's just not happening. So gonna be a lot of Zoom going on, FaceTime. That's it. We won't. I have, we're not doing trees or anything. Although I went out today and my partner's actually put up some lights because I was getting so upset by it all. So yeah, it looks quite festive. So all the dogs have got their stockings to have their treats put in that are hanging up on their walls, and they're all sitting there going, "Oh, where do I get that then?" So yeah, it's gonna be different for a lot of people, but I think as long as everybody stays safe and well and healthy, and we'll miss our elderly parents, but it's them being safe that's the important thing. So
Have you managed to talk the elders into using Zoom?
well, we keep trying, but my dad thinks he's quite a computer whiz, and to be fair, he is, but he's also got glaucoma and he's losing his sight, and the two don't work very well. So it's difficult. It tends to be phone calls more than anything with them, but we'll see how we go. But it's a very difficult time for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is, I mean, I'm more than happy to work. I volunteered to do it because I think it's not that much of a change for me. You know, I would just normally be sat getting drunk and eating a dinner on my own. So it's not that much of a change for me, but it might be that somebody's Christmas Day is made easier or less sad, let's say, by my being there. So I'm glad to do it. It's just not looking forward to it. I haven't done a proper full on my own for about 6 months. I gave up. No, it might be nearly a year. I don't do the long hours and the hard stuff anymore because I'm feeling my joints. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, any other? I know it's your last one with us. What I want you to say is remember that you've got access to the Facebook group, and that includes asking any questions or, you know, chasing up if you're not sure about things. You've paid for that. It's a service and you get that for 3 months. So do use it, you know, do ask questions, and don't feel like you're going to be stuck on your own if you're starting to rip your hair out, and especially as they get older, coming up to teenagehood and all of the fun that entails. Do nag, do get in touch, you know. I'm not sure how long Dawn will keep the WhatsApp group bit open, so if you haven't copied your links down for the class videos, then do that, because otherwise you won't be able to reference back on the WhatsApp group once she decides to shut that down. All right, so but hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully you've enjoyed it and you've learned something new, or at least if not, with people like Nikki, I'm very conscious you are obviously very knowledgeable. I'm very conscious of at least reinforcing previous knowledge and reaffirming it. Is, you know, if that's all I've done for you, then I'm still going to feel good about that. Yeah. So now I did mute you because I was getting a bit of side sound. Sorry. So you'll have to unmute yourself again.
No, it's been really, really good, and it's because often you get stuck in a certain way of doing stuff too that we've, you know, done previously with the dogs. So no, it's been absolutely brilliant. So will you be doing another one?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
we definitely got plans down already. Dawn's already taking bookings for future classes, but she does all the booking, as you know, because I can't be held responsible for that. We tried me doing bookings and I just mess it up. So, you know, she does all of that and all the financial side of it. And I just turn up and float around like a fairy, you know, that's all I do. So I'm going to say goodbye to you. I know I'm cutting it off a bit short, but I think you've had quite a lot of classes. I've run over quite a lot for you as well. So hopefully you feel you've still made your money up. Unless you've got any problems or concerns that you want to talk about now. No? All right. So we'll do a quick Merry Christmas. We'll unmute you. And we can say Merry Christmas to everybody.
Say Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. And thank you so much, Julie. It's been so helpful. It's been brilliant.
All right. Do have a really good Christmas as much as you can. And, you know, enjoy being with the family that you can, or accessing them one way or another. You know, I'll be on Zoom to mine. As soon as I get a break in the middle of the day, I'm going to be on Zoom to my lot. So, all right. So Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Bye.
Bye.